I had a request, and I think it's a good one, that we start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I think we'll all stand. We'll do that right now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. I want to welcome everyone here to the Ponca Politics Election Forum for the Oklahoma House of Representatives. This is sponsored by the Governmental Affairs Committee of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm Robert Howard, and I'll be the moderator this morning, as well as the chair of the Governmental Affairs. I'd like to walk through the process and, above all, encourage everyone, if you do not have a card to write your questions down, please do so. We have a committee here, Sue Lunsford and Barry Bickle, that are reviewing so that we don't have repeat questions, and we appreciate their efforts. We're going to write the questions on the index cards. Please print, make sure they're clear, and the Governmental Affairs Committee will pick up the cards. We'll take questions from the floor. When all the cards have been covered, then we'll go to the floor to ask questions if time allows. Both candidates will answer each question asked. There will be no questions asked of just one candidate. Candidates will limit their answers to 2 minutes. Questions will be answered in rotation. Rich Cantillon will keep time, and he'll have a sign he'll hold up when you have 30 seconds, plus a stop sign when your time is up. And we ask each person to honor that time. After introductions and going over the rules, each candidate will have 10 minutes for opening comments. We have flipped a coin toss, and Representative Vaughan will be the first to open his comments, and he'll be the first to close. We will end abruptly at 1 p.m. That's our goal, and that's what we will do. For the closing comments, each candidate will have 5 minutes each on the close. With that, I'd like to call on Representative Vaughan for his opening comments.
I understand. Have I been known to walk around out there sometimes?
Just be out of view.
I know. Lightning strikes if you move from here. I know that, okay? Well, thank you. Thank you, Chamber, first of all. Rich, yesterday on WBBZ with Phil Turney, awesome. Okay, because you're pumping this thing up. You're having people to come. Thanks for everyone to come. And you know what? This is a great forum. It really, really is. If you'll notice, neither me or Nancy have mics in our hands, and neither one of us are standing up here going to be battling it against each other. And unlike what's on TV, sometimes that's just a little bit sad. But this is a great forum. I thank the Chamber for doing it. I thank you for coming. You know, being the representative, I'm all over the area. I see a lot of people, and the people just think this is a 4-month job and you go home. Try again. It's about a 12-month job and you're never home. And the thing that people ask me the most, the first question they ask me, and most question they ask me is, Steve, why in the world do you do this job? You know, I step back a couple times when they say that, and I'll look at them and I'll say, you know, this is my service. This is my service to K County. This is my service to my country. Am I down there fighting? Yeah, I am. Is people shooting back at me? Yeah, they are. Is it with real bullets? No. But I will tell you this, when I say I'm fighting, and when I say this is my service, I want to share a story with you. My brother was in University of Missouri back in the 70s. Back then there was Vietnam War. My brother went to college with his best friend, and they always wanted to go to university together and have a room together. And if you remember, those that are old enough to remember this, there was the draft. And one day, my brother got up that morning, and his best friend was gone. His name was Mark. And my brother never saw Mark ever again because he was drafted and he went to Vietnam. There's a man that comes to our Capitol almost every Monday, and he sits up there in the very top of the gallery, and he looks down upon us, well in his 80s. He climbs those stairs every time. And I noticed him there over the weeks and weeks, and I finally went and asked him, I said, why do you come here every Saturday for? Every Monday for? And he says, Steve, I want to make sure that I look down in the gallery down there, and I see the people, and I see your House of Representatives, and I see you guys working, and I want to know that when you vote, what you do, what you say, I want to know that you're as willing to die and for what you believe as much as I was willing to die for what I believe, and that's this country. That's the freedom that we have. My hair was, you get the goose pimples type thing, because you know what? That's a man who looks at us and says, I want this to be right. I want you guys to do the right thing. I want you to vote the right way. And the right way doesn't always mean it's for everyone, because you try your best to make everyone happy, but you can't. So when I honestly get to the point where I know that this is the choice that I chose to do, it's something that in my heart I say I want to do, and I go and do it. The hardest thing about this job is that when you actually do say goodbye to your family, because we're gone. And it's a commitment you really got to say that you're willing to do. But while I'm down there, I have a job that's a responsibility to, and that's a responsibility to everyone. I really just wish it was about one thing, because it isn't. But whenever I get down there and I do my votes, I have to stop and I think, there is 3.so million people in the state of Oklahoma. And out of all those people, they send the state capital $6.8 billion. I don't know if I ever knew what $1 billion was, but I found out pretty quick what it was. But $6.8 billion is what they send us. Well, let's take this, and let's pretend that this is $6.8 billion. This is what they send to me to work with, okay? And we have a balanced budget in the state of Oklahoma, so if it's not balanced, we're in trouble. We have to send back. How many of these you send to me, I send to the other people, and we have to balance. Well, that $6.8 billion goes this. I'm going to fold it in half, and half of that goes to education, 53%, which is very important, which is very important to the communities, very important to the state. But half of this money goes to education. You fold it again, we have elderly people in the state, we have children in the state that has to be taken care of. They have needs, and those are under the Health and Human Services. That's 35% of the budget. Out of 87 agencies that we have to take care of, the other 85 get 15%. I don't know that you've ever even thought of it like that or even seen it like that. But my responsibility in that house is to make that work for everyone. Okay? To make that work for everyone. So, you're saying, well, Steve, just print more money. That's what the government does. Just make some bills, make some bonds. and have Arkansas buy them because we have China, okay, from the state. We can't do that. I'm in the basement sometimes. I run around looking for those printing presses, and there's not anything down there that's going to print this money. So with having a balanced budget, we say, you know what? How do we do that? Well, number one, you raise taxes. If you pay $2,000 a year in property taxes, or if you pay $2,000 in state taxes, whatever you pay, all of a sudden we're just going, you know what? Let's just double it, and everybody be happy. I won't ask hands in here of how many wants me to double your taxes. May not get very many of them. So what else can we do? Well, I tell you, we can create jobs. We can create an environment that people's going to want to come to the state. And if they come to the state, well, guess what? They're going to bring their money, and they're going to pay taxes. And all of a sudden, this $1 can become $2. We have a great state. We have a little under 5% unemployment. We have things working in the state, which is working great. But I'm telling you, those are the two ways of doing it. And I honestly think most people would rather have jobs and have economic growth and business. I have been a pro-advocate of economic growth and business. I think you guys have seen my records. I've scored 100. There's 22 freshmen there. I'm one of the gray-haired ones, and I scored 100% on those tests. I couldn't score 100% if I had to. My wife knows me. If I had to transpose the numbers, I probably would screw it up and get a 98. Okay? But about 400 bills get put across in front of us. They'll pick out about 50 bills and they'll say, how did you vote on business and economic growth? And I scored 100% on it. So that's what I've been doing as far as trying to increase to increase the population of being able to make more money for those people. I worked 28 other years in another job, and it was great. And we made a good income. I raised my family. I was proud to work for that company. It was a blessing to work for them. But it got to a point where I stopped and said, where's this country really going? And what am I doing to help this country? So Senator Myers happened to have a farm just north of me a little bit. And David Myers said, what are you going to do in your retirement when you retire? I said, I am going to live happily and drive my tractor. And he goes, no, you're not. He says, I think you'd be a good state representative for us. And I said, David, I am as unpolitical as you're ever going to find. They're not going to like what I'm going to say. He says, Steve, it's exactly why you'll be a good statesman. Because they're going to like what you're going to say, because you're going to stand on your principle. Down at the Capitol, one of the things the guys say to me for the first 2 years is, we know where you're at, especially the lobbyists. I thought lobbyist was a bad word, actually, when I went down there. I'm going to tell you something about them. They really do the legwork that a lot of us can't. And they know where I stand, and they know what I'm going to do. And they'll come to me and say, you know what, we appreciate you because you know exactly where you're at. Well, in closing, I'd like to say this. There's two choices. There's someone that says, I'm going to do the job, and there's someone who's standing here saying, this is the job I've done. And I'm telling you, if you like what I've done, then send me back. Thank you.
I think so. Good morning. Okay. I too want to thank the Chamber for allowing us this opportunity to speak. And I am Nancy Niemann, and I'm here to tell you why I'm running. I'm not a politician. I'm a very mainstream person that works hard. My husband John and I have been married for 39 years, and we farm just southeast of Ponca City in Osage County. And we have 3 children, all college graduates, and 5 grandchildren. I'm a very practical, financially conservative person. I was born and raised in Ponca City. I married young and realized that college was expensive. I was paying my own way, so I commuted to NOC and then to OSU and graduated in 3 years because that was the least expensive way to get through college. I began my teaching career in December of 1975. I'm currently Assistant Superintendent of the Ponca City Schools, one of the area's largest employer. I handle all the budgets, the financials, including all of the human resources, the hiring, and all personnel issues. I handle over $50 million in budget with a payroll of just over $22 million. I honestly believe we have not been fairly represented. Our current representative is of the ultra-conservative right wing, and he votes that way. He is out of touch with the people of our community. I will be a person that listens to both sides. I will research all issues and implications prior to making a vote. I may not be an expert in every area, but I know we have people in our community that are experts. I'm tired of being told that we have people in our community that were not sought out. Their expertise was not considered prior to a legislative vote. We have many, many hardworking people in our community that take time away from their job just to go down to the Capitol during session. They are there to prevent crazy legislation. They're taking time away from their regular job. They're in defensive mode. What a waste of our time. What a waste of the dollars of our community. We need to restore Oklahoma common sense and values back at the state capitol, and I'm the candidate to do that. I do want to be a very strong advocate of education. I understand the budgeting process. I deal with unfunded mandates and can tell others how cuts will affect education. I'm very good at this because I've been doing this consistently with the continual cuts to education. And it's not just budget concerns. I'm concerned about teacher effectiveness, retention of students, grading schools, and all of the other poor legislation that has recently been passed. Our area applicant pool is very thin. Businesses start up when there are people that are educated through the universities, the career techs, specialty programs. It takes a trained, productive workforce in order to bring jobs to our area. The economy will help us in every single way when we have trained workers ready to go. It's important that our area becomes work ready. I want to be a voice for women. Our state has fewer female legislators than any surrounding state. We've been underrepresented far too long. We bring a calmness and practicality to the table. Currently, we have excessive male majority making decisions about our health care, and to me, that just isn't common sense. There's been negative polling and phone calls accusing me of wanting big government, advocating raising taxes, wanting abortions on demand, and wanting to take your guns. These are purely false and malicious lies. As I said before, I'm not a politician, but I've certainly learned the bullying techniques that some use to support their candidate. Thank goodness my supporters do not do that. I would certainly put a stop to that. First of all, I live in a rural area. I live on a farm at least 1 mile away from the very closest neighbor. Our home has been burglarized twice. We have guns at our house. We live in the corner of 2 rivers. There's an enormous amount of hunting in our area. The deer run freely across my yard and in our fields. In fact, last night I helped the neighbors catch 3 horses that were trying to munch along the pecan grove in our house. This is my life. I live in rural Oklahoma. I will never take away your Second Amendment rights. Because I live on the Arkansas River, I too have concerns about the wildlife and the fish. My opponent's paddlefish bill protects our fish, which is good. And we believe, but I honestly believe there are far more pressing concerns facing our state. Once again, we need common sense at the state legislature. I am not in favor of raising taxes. No one likes to pay more taxes, whether it's to the state or to the federal government. I'm in favor of making Oklahoma a better place. It's imperative that we use our budget more wisely. We have numerous core services that must be funded rather than continual ideological discussions without getting anything done. As I mentioned, I'm a practical person. I will do what it takes to get things done without worrying whether it's a Republican or Democrat issue. This race must be focused on local issues and not national partisan politics. I'm not in favor of tax cuts when we cannot fund our core services. So I'm advocating using the budget we have in a very transparent manner and using the budget wisely. I would never recommend spending more than what we have. I live within a budget at home, as I'm sure you do too. I keep the school district solvent with a very adequate carryover even during current budget cuts. I've been accused of being an on-demand abortionist. Look at me. I'm a mother of 3, a grandmother of 5. I've spent my entire life as an educator working with children. I believe in life, and I advocate for life. And I'm fortunate I've never had to be involved with an abortion decision. But I believe abortion should not be used as a contraception. But I think it's time to get government out of this decision. The decision for an abortion should be between a woman, her physician, and God. This is a very personal and religious decision, and it should not be up to big government. I love Oklahoma. As I stated, I was born and raised here. I've always lived in Ponca City. My 3 children grew up here and graduated from the Ponca City Public Schools. I'm retiring at Christmas after 36, 37 years of service, win or lose. That decision was made a long time ago. I want to be the voice for House District 37. I'm a mom, a grandmother, and an educator. This is not a job to me. I'm retiring from a job I love. I could continue to stay there, but I have opted to move on and represent education and represent you in a different way. I am an outsider to politics, but I will work harder than anyone else. I'll ask experts prior to any action. I will never vote straight party, but will vote for what is best for our district and the people of our district. We must do better. We owe it to our families and to our children to give them the best representation possible at the state capitol. Thank you. My first up for questions.
Okay, thank you to both candidates here. What is the first question? What is the most important issue for the next legislative session? That's the question. I want to point out here that we have far more questions than we're probably going to get to. So the committee is doing a fine job of trying to streamline some of these questions that might be duplicative. So bear with us. We're going to get through all the questions that we possibly can. Okay, the first to answer this question is Nancy, and I'm going to leave it laying there for you.
The most important issue, there are many issues that are very, very important. And I've heard the governor say that the tax cut will be one of the most important. I've heard the revitalization or a reduction of workers' compensation would be the most important. I think the most important is how are we going to shore up our schools? How are we going to provide better education to help provide that workforce? We need trained people in our district. I believe we're going to have to figure out how we're going to rework the budget, fund education, get the biggest bang for our buck, and make sure that we have everything necessary to get those jobs into place. So education is the key to bringing more jobs here. Thank you. All right.
Go ahead, you throw it here. I don't know if you know that I do go down, when I was talking about this 12-year job, we do have what's called interim studies. We go down about every once a week, sometime twice a week, for what we work on for next year's bills. Just yesterday morning I was down there and come back and what I see, what we're working on right now, believe it or not, isn't education. And you guys are going to fall over. One of the biggest problems we have in this state is water. We have a huge problem. In southwest part of Oklahoma, southeast part of Oklahoma, they have not, their water towers are dry. We have a problem here. I have ponds on our place that I haven't seen in 30 years that is dry. And we have situations where if Oklahoma all of a sudden we don't have the water, period, we're not even going to be able to give kids drinks at the school. So it's not just about education. It's not just about health care, not about any of that. It's about all of it. But I will tell you right now, water is going to be the biggest, I think, the biggest thing you're going to see us vote on next year about what we're going to do with the water rights of the state.
Okay, thank you. The next question. Party affiliation is helpful to inform voters about a candidate's position on principle and issues. To what extent may we judge you by your party's platform and actions? Explain.
Good question. Bipartisan is definitely in the Capitol. You cannot just be a Republican. You cannot just be a Democrat there. I'm sorry, it's true. You laugh, it's true. I remember going to the Speaker of the House on the Democrat side on his first week we were there. And I said, Representative Niemann, you are incredible. What you just said in the last 10 minutes is I can't agree with anything you just said, but you said it incredibly well. And he laughs. He goes, well, thank you, Representative Vaughan. He goes, I said, you know, the thing it is, it's the passion that you have there for what you're doing. And it's great to be able to have Nancy say the passion she has for education is truly, truly great passion. But when you get down there and you find out that you're the minority party and you don't get to say very much, you're going to find out that bipartisan, you better be able to get on the other side of that aisle and say, this is what's really important to me. You have to build relationships there. Relationships is definitely where it's at. So I'm going to say that the best thing that we were able to do down there for sure as a representative is to build a relationship and understand that those 85 agencies is who you're working for.
Well, I appreciate Representative Vaughan's viewpoint there on building relationships, and fortunately that's what I do best. That's what I do in my job, working with over 760 or 70 employees on a daily basis. I have stated publicly, and I continue to state, that I am bipartisan. I think it's more important to be practical and to listen to others. Yes, I am a Democrat, and yes, I have many viewpoints of a Democrat. I'm a very mainstream person. Anybody that knows me will agree with that statement. I feel like it's very important that we work across the table. It is so important that we study different things. Education is important. I do understand that. It's not the only thing, and I know I'm trying to be painted in a box here that that's all I'm interested in, but I certainly am interested in a variety of things. As I stated, I have 5 grandchildren, and I have 3 children here in Oklahoma. I will always be here. We live on a farm. It is important to me. I understand the water issues, and I understand many things. Working together is the only way at the state capitol we're going to get things done, and that's what I promise to do.
Okay, thank you. The next question, what laws do you favor to foster economic development?
Okay, what laws do I favor to foster economic development? I think we have to have incentives to bring business here, but also when a business is going to come to Ponca City, and why wouldn't they want to? We have such a beautiful, gorgeous area. The things that they're going to look at are, what are our churches? What are our schools? What's the community like? Those are key, important issues. We must have business-friendly economic development. There's no doubt in that. I understand that. But there are many things that a business will look at. We are looking at workers' comp issues, which has been revitalized in 2011 for the better. And I think being business-friendly is important. We have to have a clean environment, and we have to have good schools, great churches, friendly people. That's what's going to bring businesses to Ponca City. I want to be a promoter for that. I want to be a promoter for bringing economic development here, be an ambassador. And that's what I'll be doing at the Capitol. Of course, we have experts right here in Ponca City that will help us work with what are the most important key issues and laws to be passed.
In my opening statement, I did say that I was voted 100% on our economic growth and development. There's two tests that come through there. There's one for the national and one for the state. Also received 100% on the national. I am doing for the state what the state needs for economic growth and development. The votes that I do up there is not necessarily a yes vote. A no vote might be the right thing, and a yes vote might be the right thing. And they don't come up there and all of a sudden just say, by the way, this has economic and growth and development on it. You just know. Because I'll tell you why I know. Because I come from the business side for the last 28 years. I understand if it's good for people. I understand that. I also own a business for the last 12 years. And I also understand that sometimes I have people who work for me. It's pretty tough to pay them. And so being able to be a business owner, also being able to say, to bring the economic growth to the state, you have someone says that she's going to do this, and that's great. I'm glad she says that she is, but you also have someone there who is doing it.
Okay, thank you. The next question, do you see question 759 and 765 being a possible negative for underrepresented groups? And if so, who will stand up for these groups? And if the lawmakers do not protect their rights, what is your position on State Question 759? And how would abolishing the DHS Commission affect the men and women receiving those services? I know that's a large question, but that's it, folks.
Does Nancy want to answer that one first? I was figuring there would be a question like this come out on the state questions, and I was thinking about how to answer that actually before. I'm not going to make a position on state questions, me personally, because it's my vote. Think about that for a second. Each one of you individually are going to go into that box and you're going to vote for Nancy or me, or you're going to vote for the presidents, or you're going to vote for the Lucas or whoever, okay? But the point is, each one of those votes should be personal to you, should be brought out on how I'm going to vote on that. I'd be happy to answer that on what those key answers are going to be, or what those are going to be like for the state questions on if you vote this way or if you vote this way. I'll be happy to answer that. But as far as asking, I'm going to vote on them, I'm not going to do that. Okay? They don't seem to sound to be mean, but it's just a personal thing, and that's it. So ask me the questions on what's the bill's about. Okay? Let's let her answer that, and maybe we can do that.
We're not going to do that.
Okay.
We're going to stick to the questions on the cards.
Okay, there were two questions that they were looking at, 759, and what was the other one? Okay, 759 is banning affirmative action in the state for state employment. That's what 759 is. Is that the correct one? Okay, 759 is banning affirmative action. We already have human resource laws that are federal laws and state laws that do not allow discrimination. So hopefully, and I'm sure in employment issues, that it really should not make a difference whether that passes or not. Now, hopefully, people are following the laws and not being prejudiced during hiring decisions, because there are several federal laws on that. The other one, I think, was on the position of 766. Was that 65? Eliminating the Commission of Overseeing the Oklahoma Department of Human Resources. That one? Okay. Where it transfers the power to the legislator and governor. Now, I understand Representative Vaughan is unwilling to address this issue. That is there's a lot of ambiguities in the legislature about that, about who is most capable of taking over DHS. I think that takes a lot of study. The department has been grossly underfunded and isn't doing well. Now, whether the governor and legislative takeover would help that process, I'm not quite clear at this point. So I will continue to study that one. Thank you.
Okay, the next question. What kind of bills do you favor for industry surrounding Call Lake?
Well, I'm not sure what they mean by different kinds of industry surrounding Call Lake. Of course, we have a beautiful environmental area, and that is key. That is important to keep it environmentally sound. I think that we must continue to do that and preserve that. I would talk to our people that are in charge of the Call Lake Association. I would work with tourism. I would work with Ponca City Economic Development in order to help bring additional businesses here. That is a federally controlled lake, I do believe, because of the dam and the Army out there. But there are other things that we could do to bring more jobs to our community. But preservation of that lake and the beauty and the wildlife, of course, is very important.
I agree with Nancy on that's kind of a hard question to ask, to answer. I will say that the Corps of Engineers does own about a half-a-mile circle of the whole Call Lake area. So it has made it pretty hard for us to be able to do any kind of economic growth out there or a job situation for bills for an area that's owned by the state, our national government, okay? So if there is something that come up that we're able to help, I do know one bill that we did work on about the cedar trees, okay? That was probably a part of it, and we did have the Corps of Engineers come in, and we did a bill so that you could go in and cut cedar trees, and we would pay X amount of money per tree to be able to do that. That's probably the only thing I remember in the session that was something that would be able to help that area. But until they basically say that land can be bought and sold to private individuals, it's not going to happen. I grew up in Table Rock Lake area, and to tell you the truth, I don't know if we really want our area to end up looking like the Table Rock Lake area. There's a lot of tourism, there's a lot of great things, but you know what? Like Nancy said, our farm is actually about a mile from the lake there, and it is really nice to see that beautiful area undisturbed. But that's the answer to that.
The next question. What can you do to immediately improve the quality of education in Oklahoma without raising taxes?
All right, I'm trying to understand. So I'm supposed to raise the quality of education without raising taxes. That's a good one, okay? I guess I'll say it like this. We have We do have a very quality education program now. We really do. I think in my speech at the first, when I showed you how we're going to be, how could we raise the money to be able to give that quality education more, unless we raise the taxes, we do. And in this question says without raising taxes, we can't do it. I think my little, my talk at the first kind of answered that. I don't know if you knew this or not. Some of you in the room did, but my father taught for 40 years as a teacher. And one of the things we always had at home was Dad's paycheck was kind of small. But I never wanted for anything. I was loved by Dad. I was loved by my mom. And I didn't even know that there was a higher class or a lower class where I lived in Missouri. But I know that Dad would always say this. He would always say, you know what? And I think this would answer this pretty cool. Dad would go, you know what? If they'd just let my teachers teach, it'd be great. Just let them teach. Because there comes a point where we seem to stick so many things on these teachers of all these tests and all these things that they have to do, which is trying to raise the quality of the education of the kids, but it's just dumbing the kids down because they don't let the kids be what they want to be when they want to do it, and they don't let the teachers teach anymore. I would truly like to see our teachers just teach anymore. That's where we're at.
What we need in education is more local control. Right now we have tons of legislative unfunded mandates, such as ACE, Reading Sufficiency Act, Common Core, Teacher Leader Effectiveness, third grade retention, grading of schools. I can go on and on and on and on. More local control. I agree we need to be able to let teachers teach without continual legislative interference. We can do that free of charge. Let us have control. Let us control our teachers. We know how to train them. We assess our kids. We know where they're at. We know how to help get them better. We need to work harder and more efficiently with training our kids, teaching them, helping them become better thinkers, creative thinkers. So quit tying our hands with so many legislative, unfunded mandates.
The next question. In K County, job growth was 1.5%. What have you done or what will you do to address this job growth deficit?
Jobs is the #1 concern for our area. There is absolutely no doubt about that. #2 is education. They do go hand in hand. I think it's important that we have good ambassadors out there helping to bring people to our state, to our community. I think it's important that we have housing, churches, and great schools to help provide for those people coming to our community. It takes all three of those things. I think it is absolutely imperative that we not only bring additional jobs here, but we have a work-ready workforce. We have to be community-ready and work-ready. So there are many things that we're going to need to work hard with. We do have our experts in our area. We'll be working directly with them, going out and trying to bring additional jobs here. Our unemployment is very, very low in this community, but we have underfunded jobs. We have low-paying jobs in the community, and we have to have higher-paying jobs for people to survive and live on.
You create an environment to be able to have people come to Ponca City to be able to have good jobs. It's kind of like building a pond. You build the pond and you put things in the pond so the pond grows so that you can put your fish in it and have the fish be able to eat more of the pond, eat the things in the pond. Well, we're called building the environment, right? What we do in the Capitol is try to build an environment through the bills and the laws that we pass to be able to have an economic growth in the areas, in the state, to build a reason for people to come. David Myers, not Senator Myers that passed away, but David Myers, who does a wonderful job. And if you guys never get to see, you should just go by and ask him, get on his emailing address, because what they do in this town to try to bring jobs in here is just phenomenal. I love working with him. I love sending my emails back and forth with him and seeing what we're doing here. Teamwork is definitely the way to make it work here in Ponca City also. I work with Homer Nicholson and Greg. We work together as a team as much as we can. We email each other as much as we can, say these are the things that we need to be doing. I want you to know that at the state level, it's not as easy as snap your finger and make it happen there, okay? It just isn't. Things that come together at the Capitol is something that's been thought of a long time ago or brought through the process. And so as much as I think Nancy thinks that she can make this stuff happen, it doesn't happen just like that, okay?
The next question, is it true that Oklahoma's crime rate has not been declining like the national crime rate? And what do you think can be done about it?
It's not been declining, okay. I'm on the committee for safety. We were in the Capitol 2 weeks ago. This is not going to come to shock to you, but let me tell you what's going on in Woodward, Oklahoma area. Representative Hickman's over there pulling his hair out because we have about 700 people that's in the institutions and less than 50 people watching them because they get paid $11 an hour versus $30 an hour if they go work in the oil field. So we're losing these guys like crazy. That's going to make it definitely going to make a problem on how come we can't have these, our crime rate is going crazy because we don't have the money to be able to fund what we need to fund to be able to have more people that's going to be able, like policemen and firemen, policemen and highway patrolmen and guys at those institutions leave because, and it's a wonderful thing because guys are making a lot more money. I don't blame them. We have troopers that do that. I don't blame them what's going on. But to be able to say, how are we going to fix this through the state, guys, again, it boils down to money. Okay, it just does. I wish we had those printing presses, but we don't. But the only way we can make them is to raise your taxes. And I don't think we want to do that. So whenever we finally decide it, okay, that's going to take care of a lot of these problems through the money that we raise. Okay?
Well, I certainly agree. It does come down to money in many issues, so it could be looking at those core services once again. I know our prison systems cost around $450 million. That's a lot of money. Our prison guards are paid poorly. Underfunded jobs, positions. The better the economy is, the less crime that there is. That's an ongoing concern. The better educated people are, the better off they will be in the state of Oklahoma. Now, I know the open carry law will be going into effect November 1, and I understand that's been sold on helping crime go down because guns intimidate people. We'll wait and see if that actually happens or not. We have cut troopers in this state. We've cut police forces due to budget cuts. We have to work our way back to where we were. It is important. It does come down to money. It takes money to run a state. We're a poor state, but sometimes we act poorer than what we are. We have to decide what our priorities are, and that's where your dollars go.
The next question, what is your position on the Oklahoma state income tax?
Okay, I know that the Republican position is to reduce income tax by 4.8 to 5.2%. Oklahoma is already near the bottom of state income tax. I cannot support an income tax cut. We're not able to provide core essential services such as the troopers, police enforcement, education, core essential services. I am not in favor of cutting any income tax until we figure out another way to supplement that loss of income to this state.
Last year when we had the income tax situation, we had 4 bills on the House. One of those bills I was a co-author of. 28 of us co-authored it, okay? I think Dr. Niemann needs to understand that there were 3 things in all 4 of those bills that we said will not be cut whatsoever. That was education, health care, roads and bridges. In the ones that we said, in the way that we were going to make our bills and make our cuts, those 3 core functions of our state government and of our state would not be cut whatsoever, and we would still be able to move those numbers down. Am I a proponent? And you know what? I don't want to pay taxes. I would like to pay no taxes. But you know what? We still have responsibilities of the state. And if taxes is the only way to take care of those responsibilities, then you know what? We have to figure out what comes in, goes out. Each and every one of you have a home, rent something, whatever, but the point is this: you run your house the way you run your house, and hopefully you run your budget the way you can afford. We have to run the state government with a balanced budget amendment. What comes in the doors is all we have to spend, okay? So, yes, I would love to be able to cut taxes, but I think we know that we can't. Would I like to see a little bit of it go down? Yeah. Did you know at one time it was over 7% and we cut it down to the 5.25% now? And is all of us falling apart about it? I don't think so. They say that whenever you do cut taxes, you do increase the base and make it more friendly for people to come to the state and for businesses to come to the state, because they do like paying less taxes. So the income tax that we would make off the people that would come to the state would probably offset the cost of the individual taxes there. So that answers that. Thank you. Okay.
The next question: I understand that the Ponca City High School has formed a bipartisan political group for our future voters. Attending and speaking to these students, what advice would each of you, through political participation, give to these future leaders of our great political process?
Even signed it. That was good. I think it's awesome. I am so glad to hear that there's a young Republican and a young Democrat group going to happen, and we're going to, I think, it's the 23rd at 7 o'clock. I think we're going to get to speak to them. Okay? I'm excited about that, actually, because this is the reason why. We do need to let them know that there is definitely 2 separate sides of the parties. Yes, there is. There is. Just get away from it. There is. There's 2 ideological reasons. There's 2 reasons. There's 2 different parties, and we need to let them know what those parties are. When me and Diana went to college, actually, it wasn't until we were juniors at NEO did we walk in to the school and said, "This is what Republicans believe, and this is what Democrats believe." And we looked at both of them and go, "Well, one of those wasn't me, and one of them was." Okay. I was said a minute ago that I'm the right wing of the Republicans. And apparently she has not met Representative Reynolds yet, because whenever I talk with people, they do ask what you are, Steve, when you knock on the doors. They say, Republican or Democrat? I said, this is who I am. If your house blows down and you'll let me, I'll be right here the next day with my hammer, help you put your house back up. And if your kids need some help because you've lost your job, I'm right here to help you till you get your feet back on the ground. But when you stand there with your hand out and say, give me something for doing nothing. That's where I draw the line. So if I am, no way am I here, but no way am I there. And I think you guys see that my voting record does definitely show where I stand and who I am. And that's good.
This is exciting at the high school because for a number of years we have not had any political student affiliations, such as Young Republicans or Young Democrats. So this will be the first year, and I'm excited to be able to speak to them. I know at first Representative Vaughan was unwilling to speak to the Democrat students, but I think we have that worked out, and that now you're willing to speak to both groups. Because education is the key so that they understand and know what it is that Republicans are or Democrats are, and that most of us are never one way or the other, but we're middle of the road. We may have financial ideas that belong to one party and other ideas that belong to another, because we're people. We can't be pigeonholed into thinking one direction or another. But in the state of Oklahoma, you have to declare one way or the other. I don't think I am for complete handouts either. I think it's important to be able to help our neighbors and help our people, and I believe doing that through education and leading them to help themselves. That's what's critical. No one wants a free handout. I think we have too many social programs already where we hand out. We have to get a handle on that, and that's important for this state. And for us to have the opportunity to talk to our kids at the high school, I'm very excited about that. Thank you.
The next question, what are the most serious issues affecting Oklahoma farmers and ranchers?
Well, I am one of them. My husband is a full-time farmer. We live on a farm, make part of our income off farming only. That's his exclusive job. Prices, the price of fertilizer going up, the price of commodities, the lack of water, the drought situation is one of the toughest things right now. Some of those are things that you just can't control, like the weather, but there are environmentally better ways to farm today with no-till programs that the federal government helps support to help make our land better, because like yesterday, the terrible windstorms and the dirt, that was most likely from conventional farming. So there are numerous things. Of course, the price of everything. We pay more for diesel. We're paying more for gas. We're paying a lot more for fertilizer and seed. All of those things. All of our neighbors are selling off their cattle, and cattle prices are dipping down because there just isn't enough hay. So it's the drought. And I don't think either Steve nor I can figure out how to make it rain more. It would be nice if we could, but neither of us are going to be able to do that. So there are a number of economic issues that concern farming. Farming is a business. It takes education. It takes watching the market and being able to decide when to sell your cattle, when to sell your grains, regardless of what they are and what is the best. It's difficult today. There are GPS systems on all of our tractors and equipments. So today, farming and ranching is big business. It's big business in the state of Oklahoma.
I don't have a GPS system on my 4020 John Deere, by the way. It barely starts, okay? Nancy hit the nail on the head, surely. It is definitely something that we are stuck here in this state with it. In my area where we farm at, we have our farm, the guys around me just had put in their wheat. I saw them all tilling the wheat, and you know, and what happens is they say we're going to have rain on the weekends, and they get up there and we sow our wheat, and lo and behold, it don't rain. So we end up having a lot of just dirt out there, and here comes this windstorm and just messed us all up. I will say yesterday, though, Nancy, it was a casino that they were building out on the highway I-35. That this big, huge area where they had all this dirt, it just came by and picked it up, and it looked like a tornado coming across Blackwell when I was driving back. I was coming across Hubbard. coming in on Highway 11, and it was just unbelievable. But those are the things that you would thought of the Dust Bowl days. So we really need for our farmers and ranchers to be able to make an income. I sell my hay off and do real well on that, and I sometimes feel bad what I'm getting for it. But then I know what I pay for beef in the store. It's just a continual increase on increase on increase, and we all have to put up with it. I don't know that there's an answer for it. Okay.
The next question. There seems to be a total chaos with the new A through F grading system in our public schools. Would you please discuss your views of the problems with this system and how these can be resolved?
We voted on that this year on the A through F grading system. I can remember we have a rule caucus there, and the rule caucus guys get together and we kind of talk about how we're going to be voting on certain reasons and why we're doing it. And this is specifically, you remember this one. I said in the rule caucus, I said, you know, if Ponca City got a C or a B or a C for their grading, for the grade for the school, would our parents actually take them out of Ponca City and go to Stillwater, Bartlesville, or Enid just because we got a C or a D? So there's an old saying about, you know, having a dog in the hunt. I don't know that I had a dog in that one, although it was definitely for the city. Because if you were close to another school just 6 blocks down and you're getting a D in that school and they're getting an A in that school, I could see how that could be a real situation for them guys to say, I'm moving my kid to this A school just 6 blocks down the road. So we all felt like in the Rural Caucus that it should be something that we thought wasn't going to hurt our area, okay, for Ponca City area. I do know that grading comes out, and I'll go back to what my dad said about letting teachers teach, because they definitely make those teachers have to teach to those tests, and it's a problem for them. So do I like that? Not really, but I do think we need to hold the education system accountable for what they are producing for our children. That's why there is alternatives. That's why there are charter schools. That's why there are home schools. And that's why we give these other people a choice to do what you want to do. And you know what? If they don't like that, that's the way it goes. So do they hold those charter schools responsible? Yes. Do they hold homeschoolers? Yes. So should there be a grading system? Well, you know what? Like I said, I didn't like it, but I did vote for it.
The A through F grading system is a fiasco, and it's been a fiasco here for several weeks. It didn't work in Florida, where they picked up the idea. It didn't work in Indiana. Both states are trying to repeal it. It was a poor piece of legislation and should never have been voted on. 50% of the score comes from student performance, but they look at ethnicity, they look at poverty, they look at special groups. There's a variety of ways they come up with that score. Attendance goes into the score. A variety of things. It doesn't work. It was poor legislation. Once again, they should have talked to the experts in education before they voted on this piece of legislation. I think that bringing jobs to our town, they will look at that A, B, C, D, or F. If I'm moving here with a business, one thing I'm going to look at is, what's our education system? What kind of grader score do they have? I would be looking at that along with housing and churches available in our community. Those are key factors. It's a shame that we aren't allowing our teachers to teach. Instead of holding our students accountable, we're looking at holding the schools accountable. And we're judged on many things that it's just not fair, it's not right, and it's time to get back to core education values.
The next question. Please discuss your position on ad valorem taxes and raising revenue for education.
ad valorem is our property taxes. It supports much of our county government. It supports schools. Our ad valorem taxes are fairly low, pretty low in the state of Oklahoma. I think it's critical that they maintain where they're at. Right now, I know there's a question going on the ballot that would limit it to 3% increase versus 5% increase. It is important. We cannot lower our taxes that are currently going to fund certain county career tech programs and schools. It's important that we keep our tax level where it's at. You know, other states support schools in a variety of other ways, but ours is dependent upon ad valorem or property taxes. And I cannot see lowering the taxes at this point. We don't have the funding already in the state to be taking additional cuts.
That is one of the state questions coming up, 758, is moving it from 5% down to 3%. There we go again. If that passes, it's going to be less money for them to work with. But that's still, like a minute ago I said to you guys, I'll tell you about those state questions. I'm not going to tell you how I'm going to vote on them. Okay? Now, something I don't know that my opponent doesn't understand, which is very similar to what we're talking about, is we in the legislature only get what they send us. Just let me say that again. We in the legislature only vote on what is sent to us. These interim studies that I'm doing right now is studies that we're going to do next year. If the state school board decides they want to do an A through an F or anything, they send that to us to vote on. We don't make them up. We vote on them. So whenever we're accused of being the guys that's thinking all this up, no. I have one little green or one little red name up there, and I vote on based on what is brought into us that we're told to or asked to vote on. So a lot of these things you guys might think that we have some magical box. We don't. Yes, we bring bills. Yes, it's a paddlefish bill, but you know what? It was brought to me through the state wildlife game management area. All the things that we do is usually things brought to us and asked for us to be able to do an interim study on or to think about. So if you think you're going to go down there and change these things just because you can, you can't. You're going to have to work with those who's bringing those to you and then decide how I'm going to vote on it.
Kay and Osage counties have a shortage of doctors doing infant delivery. What is available to attract doctors to Kay and Osage counties?
Attract doctors to Kay and Osage counties. Boy. We had a doctor in the office to answer this one. Kay and Osage, what are the doctors available to attract doctors to Kay County? I'm going to say we have truly a really great facility here at our hospital. I know that the doctors have their own practices. I think when we have taxes that would look like to them that this is worth coming to here for, when we have taxes for their employees, the workers' compensation tax laws that we work on would give them a reason to come here. But you have to get to the point where this is a question that could be asked for anybody that would come to Ponca City. How that would we attract those? Well, those things that we talk about, that we have talked about, would be important to them. Yes, you do look at all those situations. Yes, you do look at the school situation. You look at the area that we live in, the churches that we have. Doctors would probably look at all those things just as much as if you bring your kids here. This is a great place to come if I was a doctor. It's a great place to come to live. So I don't know how to really answer it that I could attract them other than what we're doing to be able to provide a good place for them to come here to live.
I agree that there is a doctor shortage in Kay and Osage County. I met with a local doctor that recently moved here over the summer. He was excited to be moving here because we are a smaller community. It's a rural type community, and that's a big plus for many young people, but not all young people. One is having enough doctors available to hire. Did you know that 22% of all doctors in the United States are foreign trained? They are not trained here in the United States. So that's really huge, and that's a recent statistic out there. I think providing more opportunities for students to become trained doctors in a variety of ways. I know Oklahoma State University is really working hard with that, and that will help in our area. We also have far fewer women with health coverage here in our area. That's a concern. Doctors want to be paid when they provide a service. So making sure that they're paid for services provided, making sure that we provide a community that has the great education system and the churches for them is what's important. Those are the things anybody moving to a community look at. So supporting our colleges and universities and helping them train more doctors to be available, that would be the key way to help get more people to our community. Thank you.
Campaigns are very expensive. Who will you be working for? My family and community, or the big dollar contributing lobbyists and corporations that contribute to your campaign?
Well, I love this question because being the person, the challenger, I've learned that lobbyists and PACs do not send you money. It's strictly a local effort. PACs are not sending me dollars. I am out looking to local community people, and I've been fortunate. I have over 160 donations from you, from the people right here in Ponca City. Some are small checks, some are larger checks. Some people have donated several times. It's crazy expensive. Maybe there should be limits on that, but I have not had to deal or had the opportunity to deal with PACs and groups of people wanting to buy my vote. They want me to first figure out how to get elected, and then perhaps that will happen. But as I've told you before, I'm running on behalf of you. I am running for the people of Ponca City and Osage County. And I think that's far more important than being tied up with a political activist group. Thank you.
Well, welcome to being the challenger. Because 2 years ago, I'm standing right here against another guy who was getting all the PAC money. And you can rant and rave about that, but that's just the way it is. But I want to tell you something real quick. Remember I talked to you a minute ago about the lobbyists? How I had this real feeling of who these people really were. Well, you know what? That is the PACs. And what they do, by the way, that is the farm and country PACs. That is the state farm and country PACs. That is the Firefighters Association PACs. What you're going to find out if you win this thing is that you're going to go down there and they're going to say, how do you vote on these things? Do you believe in farm and ranching? Do you believe in your firefighters? Do you believe in your police? Yes. And when they look at your voting record and they go, you know what? He really did vote for our firefighters. There's our endorsement. And all of a sudden here comes a check. Because they believe what I'm doing is the right thing for what they believe in. Now, I haven't got any checks from a lot of lawyers, I have to admit. Haven't got a lot of checks from the Indian casinos, have to admit. Because you know what? A lot of those things, I'm really not for. I want to be for them as best I can, but I don't get the checks that you think that I'm getting. Yes, I have a lot of those people too, that you say, by golly, thank you for those 50s and those $100 contributions, because 2 years ago, that's exactly where I stood and exactly where I'm at. And I didn't think it was fair either. But that's the worldly incumbency, and you don't take advantage of it. You're thankful for what you do. You tell the guys, yes, I'll continue to be who you see that I am, and I'll continue to vote the way that I am. And they're going to like you, or they're not going to like you. But that's the difference. That's why you get checks from the PACs.
This is my first read. He switched on me. Why do you feel that the people of our District 37 would be better served in Oklahoma House by your election than your opponent?
I feel like I've been kind of, for the last hour, explaining that one. I'm for all the ones that I can give money for. I'm for all the agencies that we can take care of. I'm not just for one group. Now, Nancy says that she's not just for the education either, and that's fine. And like I said before, with my father being in education, I know that's a situation. I know it's important to our community. When it comes down to it, though, when you go to the House, when you're sitting in there and they're drilling the questions to you, you better be able to answer them. And you better be able to know that you can't be for everyone. You want to be for everyone, but there comes a times that you can't be. You feel like you've cut this group out, and you don't want to. And you make that vote, you get ready to push that button, you say, man, I'm going to hack off 40% of my Ponca City. Here we go. Or I'm going to make 60% of the people happy. And you look at that and go, man, I hate that. And thank goodness most of the votes up there isn't that way. There's times that we get votes that are 99-2. And I still get in trouble because I'm one of the 99, okay? But that's the point, is very few times is it ever really a very close vote. Maybe 5%. Most of them, it's pretty much along different, by both parties agreeing that this is the right thing to do for Oklahoma and the right thing to do for the people. So I want you to know that when I do those votes, I'm thinking I am doing the very best I can to say, is that the right way? Is that the right vote? Is that mess up with anything that I have morally or spiritually? Is that wrong? And that's how I feel like, as your candidate, as your state representative, this is how I vote by those reasons.
Well, I make tough decisions every single day in my job. And yes, sometimes there are decisions that people don't like. Sometimes I make people happy. But I have done that for a number of years as assistant superintendent of the Ponca City Schools. When I will make a vote as your representative, before I make that vote, it won't just be my opinion and my idea. I will have called you. I will be available by email and telephone. I will talk to you repeatedly. It's not just my decision, it's our decision on what is very best for our area. And that's what will set me apart as a representative. I truly will be in constant, continual contact with you. I will be talking to the experts of how it will affect our area. And that's how I will go about making a decision. Well, I'll always want to do what's right for the Ponca City and Osage areas, the Osage and Ponca City counties, because there's both of us. We have quite a bit of Osage County here with Pawhuska and Shidler and Granola, Webb City, Coss City, so there's quite a bit of that included in this too. It's not just Ponca City, it's several areas. Thank you.
That was our final question. It's time now to move toward the closing comments. So each person will have 5 minutes to present their closing comment.
I'm a representative. I'll just kind of piggyback on what Nancy just said, of 37,000 people in my area. I too try very hard to call certain people in our town. Rich would be for sure. A lot of them in here knows that I've called them and asked them questions. What do you think about this before I vote on this? We vote on nearly 1,200 bills. And you sit there and say to yourself, how in the world am I going to be able to do the right thing for all the people on this deal? You just can't. But you elect that person to be your representative. I had a pastor tell me one time, Steve, when you're on the floor, I feel like I'm on the floor. Now think about that just for a second. It means he didn't have to run the race. He didn't have to do all the stuff that we have to do to be on the floor. But for what he believes that I believe, I'm for him. This morning when I got up, I looked at the clock and I said to Diana, you know, there's two ways to look at this thing. This thing's going to start in 4 hours, or it's going to be over in 5.5. And I want to say the funniest thing that I've heard so far that we've done is J.B. Smith, like you guys know him, said, Steve, I can't believe what you go through. It's just unbelievable what you go through. He says, do you know that I would put signs out around October or November because I'm trying to sell a house, and people would call me and ask, JB, I really like you, but are you Republican or Democrat because of the signs you're putting out? Because I think he's running, okay? And I thought that was good because I don't know if they ever even pay attention to what we put out. Yesterday was a bad hair day for all of our signs, for sure. But I thought, when I get to this point, my last 2 or 3 minutes, that either I'll win the election or not, what would I be able to say to Ponca City? And here it goes. I loved my father. I miss him tremendously. And I remember putting signs out for him that said Charlie Vaughan for state superintendent, county superintendent. And Daddy would say to me, son, it ain't the signs that I'm going to win. It's the character that I've been since I've been in Barry County. I didn't supposed to win against a 4-year incumbent either. You look at the numbers, it don't supposed to work. But my family has been with me. The character that my children have, the character that I am, is who we bring to the table. And if I had to say something at the end that would be, I want to tell Ponca City, well, here goes. I have been proud to serve you. I have been honored to be there. My knees buckle when I walk up the stairs every time I go. It doesn't even matter if it's a interim study. I walk in there and I say, God, how in the world is I supposed to be here? And I thank him for that. Because what I've been brought up from my father, they always say that the fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree. When my mom died, I brought Dad over here. And we owned a house up by the football field, and my dad says, golly, there are wildcats here. I said, yes, they are. Last night's game proved that. Enid proved that. And I told the kids when I got to speak with them the other day that the last 6 games that you lost proved that, because you're winners. You never gave up. Dad would tell me, don't ever give up. So he made a Go Cat sign that you all see on 5th Street that I put up every year. And when I do that, I say to myself, Dad, here we are. I hope I make you proud because I do at the Capitol what I can do. When I go there with the best intentions that I can. And we have a prayer every day before the session starts. And we say a pledge of allegiance every day before the session starts. And I wish we were still doing that in our schools. That's what my father would say. But we can't. We do the best we can with what we got. And I'll tell you, like I said before, if you like what I did, send me back.
Well, I do want to be your politician, your representative, but I'm not a politician. That's the difference. I never have been. I do have character. I do have traits. I'm a leader. I make lots of tough decisions. I've been here forever. People know my background. They know my character. They know that I'm a fair person. I want to represent you. I want to be your voice. I will contact you. I will constantly be in conversations with you prior to making any legislative votes. I think it's important that our experts be involved to help me craft legislation, to help improve our area. Oklahoma, we have to make better. We owe it to our children. We owe it to our families. We've said before we are a poor state. I know that. So we have to use our money wisely. It's more than just wanting to do a good job. It's being able to do a good job, to use common sense, to talk to other people, to do research. I have spent my life doing that. I constantly use my common sense. I research everything before I make a decision. And I'm proud to be a Ponca City native. I'm proud to live here. And I would be so honored to be able to represent you down at the Capitol. I don't for one moment think it's an easy job. It's a difficult job. I understand that. I face a difficult job every single day. And I've done it for almost 37 years. So I am willing to take on this challenge. It works really well in my lifetime. I had planned to retire 3 years ago. The decision to retire from my position has not been recent. The decision to run has been. My mom passed away in February. She lived right here in Ponca City. I spent an enormous amount of time with her and helping her through life. At that moment, I knew I suddenly had freedom of time. I had somewhere else to put my time and my commitments. Also, to work out really swell in this whole deal, I have 2 children that live in Edmond, and I have 3 grandchildren. What an honor, and how much fun would that be to be able to stay with them February through May, and on those occasional days that I'll be down there other times. They will love it, and I'm excited, and they're excited to have grandmother here in their home. I am in Edmond on a continual basis. I drive back and forth all the time. I'm used to travel, and I would consider it a huge honor to be able to represent the people of House District 37 this upcoming year. Please vote for me. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to remind everyone to vote on November the 6th. It's going to be a very important election. I want to really say thank you to the city of Ponca City, the staff, and especially Susan Hill. She sets the room up so nicely. Give her a hand. I came in a little bit early, and Susan said, "Not yet." I said, "It's okay, Susan. I'm just walking through." So she's a nice lady. Anyway, I want to remind you that this forum will be covered on cable channel 22, 10:30 a.m., 6:30 p.m., and 9:30 p.m. You can also go to the city website and view that online. Another thing that I wanted to mention to you, we're going to cover the 6 state questions. And I want to remind each of you they're confusing. So please come to the meeting on November the 6th here to cover November 6th, pardon me, November the 2nd at 11:30 a.m. And I'm thinking about the election day too much, I guess. But anyway, we're going to cover those in detail. And I just want to, I hope that the area appreciates it. The governmental affairs with the Ponca City Area Chamber of Commerce really tries hard to keep you informed as citizens. And I hope you really enjoy and appreciate that. So, with that, I'd like to thank each of you for attending. Thank you very much.